Okay, good evening. We're here on Tuesday, November 19th for the planning board meeting. And we have a quorum, so is there a motion to open the meeting?
Motion open.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, there's the first hurdle. So, just as a matter of notification, the public hearing for the Bach Capital de Boer application has been postponed. We will not hear it this evening. It's been postponed to December 3rd. So we will not hear that application this evening. So we'll go straight to our first item, or revised first item, and that's an informal appearance, and that's for
This meeting is being recorded.
it's for the Twin Ridges Road, Giori. This is an application for a site plan development approval, wetlands permit, and tree permit. We last heard this back on July 21, 2020.
Yes,
How are you?
good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm doing well, thanks. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before your board. Where would you like us this evening, given the,
Probably up here, and
Okay.
if you have any drawings that you can
of course,
show us. And
sure. So I'll start with the introductions, if that's okay. My name is Keith Potensky. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I have here with me this evening Michael Jory, the principal of the owner. Stephen Danzer, our wetland consultant. Tessa Hakaita, sorry if I butchered your name, our esteemed engineer, and Tracy Chalifo, our landscape architect. This is an application for a single family home on an approximately 2-acre lot in the residential 2A district. The application requires a site plan approval, wetlands permit, tree permit, and stormwater permit from this board, and we're also going to need some variances from the zoning board of appeals. At a minimum, we believe we're going to need a front yard variance, which we'll explain, as well as a 280A variance, which we'll also explain. There's a little bit of history here which is relevant, especially for board members who might not have been on the board the last time we appeared. This application dates all the way back to 1990 when Mr. Jory originally bought the lot. He applied for a single family home, very similar application to this one, and received all of the approvals at that time, including wetlands approval and variances, but he did not build at that time. So those approvals expired, and we're here to basically renew those approvals on a very similar application. Under SECRA, this is a type 2 action, it's a single family residence, and we're here tonight to introduce the application, walk you through the site plan so you can see what we're looking to do. We have our experts here to answer any questions that you might have, and with that, I'll turn it over to Tessa.
thank you.
Yeah, that's
I would like to share the screen if possible. It is disabled currently.
Pam.
Yep, it should be. It's allowed to be shared.
Allowed to be shared.
Let's see.
It's disabled at the screen sharing.
She's listed as a panelist.
I believe so.
Yeah, then she can share.
You're up there on the board.
Right, I'm trying to share. It says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Let's see. Try now. Anything?
Yes,
Well, it's a cute looking dog anyway.
No, that's me.
It's working now, Pam.
Okay.
okay. Just let me know. Okay, I am.
No, I think you got something.
It's not an improvement.
It's awesome. On different squares. But it's something.
It is movement.
She's sharing her screen, not the presentation.
Right, if you click on your presentation,
Mhm.
I don't know where it is, but
Right, you should be able to choose what you share, right?
We're gonna have to go to Zoom school.
Yeah.
Well, we're all moving like we have rickets on the camera, so I don't think that's helping. Does anybody remember that from biology, rickets? I think it's vitamin D deficiency. Anyway,
Should have, sorry, that should have.
I don't know why is it so difficult. Let me try again.
Tessa, if you open up the documents you want to share, it will be easier when you get the share screen, it will highlight the document. And then you hit enter.
Right, I have it open and and it somehow doesn't do it.
Exactly.
share the submission from the internet, from the website.
You don't have it, Felicia, you don't have it either?
Someone would have to.
let me try.
Oh,
Helm
maybe,
Helm
maybe,
that,
okay.
Oh,
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 here it comes.
Here comes something.
Something.
There you go.
Hey, we did it.
Well
Who did it? Felicia, did you do it or?
No, Tessa did.
It's updated app, so maybe something different, I don't know, I usually use Zoom with no problem, but, okay, so,
You want a pointer?
was it?
You want a pointer?
Yes, okay.
That won't work.
Yes.
No, it worked.
Uh,
Oh, it may only work on the one in there.
Yeah, it may not work on this TV.
It does, but not as,
uh-huh.
Yeah, this one doesn't. work
Right.
either. I only see it works on the wall, but it doesn't work on the TV. Oh, yeah,
No,
yeah.
it does,
This-
but
this
it's
works
not
on the
as bright.
TV, but it's
Oh,
tough to see, so
Okay,
we'll do the best. we
okay,
can.
okay.
okay.
I guess
So-
you could get up there and point if you want with your finger.
Actually, I think I have something else.
Should be able to use cursor.
It's amazing how tailor made this also is. It works on this surface.
But we bought them for that.
So as it was mentioned, in 1990s and 1991, it was wetlands permits and I guess some other permits obtained, but they expired and they granted, I guess, certain conditions. They granted development with certain conditions, which would have been 15-foot variance from the front yard setback and subject to maintaining 40-foot setback from all the wetlands.
So back then, when this was, you received did you receive the wetland permit back then?
So
I think I read
it was
history that you
not
did.
exactly me, but it was in
Wow,
the
I'm sorry,
1990s.
yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that.
The collective.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
There's very few of us still around, but yes, I'm sorry. But when it was obtained, that's back when the setback was 40 feet.
No, so basically, they had to maintain 40 feet to the wetlands, I'm not sure
My
actually if
recollection
it
was
was.
it was 100-foot setback.
Yeah, it was more, but this was basically the wetlands permit that granted the development if they were to maintain 40-foot setback. And in that case, the building, just like here,
And that was the permit in 1990,
the building had to go
1991?
very close to this, it's actually maybe too much maybe. So the building had to be very close to this property line back then as well. So we have here 18.4. Previously, the variance was granted as 15. And they also maintained previously 40-foot separation from both of these wetlands, because there's one, and then there is another one from the other side. So that was, the house was slightly in a different location back then, but then septic was just designed, permits were not really obtained, and based on that older code, maybe it would have gotten, but currently, with all the restrictions and new codes through the years, we got actually very close to obtaining already Westchester County Health Department permit for septic. So there are a lot more criteria to why we had to move this building further.
This plan that we're seeing now, is this the plan from 1990, or is this a
No.
new plan that's been generated over the past 33 years?
It's new plan, so my presentation is going to be right now slightly going back.
Mhm.
And because we submitted also in 2016 and 2020, different versions, and we were asked to do different comparisons. So this time around, I did not necessarily provide a lot of comparisons,
Mhm.
but I was just gonna present it now to go back and to touch base a little bit on the history of what our plans were considered. So to show how did we arrive to that particular location and what was important criteria that we decided to go with this particular site plan.
So just one more clarification then, so the 2020, last time you guys came back, 2021,
Yes,
is that this plan, or has this plan evolved since the last time, 3 or 4 years ago?
no, it was the same plan. The only thing that we are changing currently, at that time we considered well.
Mm-hmm.
And the town and the health department, they decided that we should be doing water main extension as previously considered. So that basically those previous development conditions would have been actually fulfilled. From 1990s, the town still would want us to fulfill certain conditions that, this neighborhood was developed back then, but maybe not everything was done all the way to the end. So it was always intended that the water main would be extended, that the Twins Ridge Road would be widened. So at some point in 2020, we just submitted with absolutely minimum disturbance. And we just proposed basically the well, and we really did not need anything else.
So the two things you mentioned, the widening of the road and the extending of the water main, those were conditions of the resolution, or those town code now and the town is telling you to do that? I'm a
No,
little
these were
confused.
conditions of the previous approval that expired ever since that
Okay.
time. It was basically approved and a previous developments that
Mhm.
were developed. And they were approved with phase 2,
Mhm.
and that phase 2 never happened really.
Gotcha.
So it expired and went away basically, and now nobody could resume back and say, well, we're just gonna do this, because you cannot do it, even if somebody really wanted to do it, because those permits expired. So we're trying to kind of do that best service to the community to fulfill those conditions from the previous
Mhm.
development, and also develop this lot.
Okay, thank you.
So-
Since 2016 or 2020, what has changed in the regulatory platform in terms of what you now have to comply with? For us, I mean, the county may have its own different regulations, and perhaps the city, this is in watershed, right? It's in the New York City watershed as
Right.
well.
Mhm.
But I was trying to get some sort of baseline earlier today in conversations. where is this property in terms of wetland regulation at this point? Is this in the environmental overlay? Is it currently a 150-foot buffer? Is it a 100-foot buffer?
Yes.
I'm assuming we'll hear from Sabrina in terms of the zoning compliances or non-compliances, and your attorney's already mentioned that obviously, variances will be required. But we're just trying to I'm trying to get some sort of platform in terms of where are we in terms of where this parcel is in terms of town regulations.
Right, so in terms of wetlands regulations, so this entire lot is, we can say this is basically it's not delineated, but this is the wetland. We don't have any delineation here, but it surely should be somehow extended. We have all these houses. When we look into GIS, we do see all green area here, which means it could be potentially a lot of wetlands. So we delineated just this area and right here we have flags, and we actually we had to delineate a lot more different pockets. So at the end, you cannot really have 150-foot setback because the entire site is within somewhere in between 100 to 150, because we would be.
Let me just ask you a question. In your memo, it said you went out a couple of weeks ago and confirmed the wetlands? Or something like that towards the end of your memo?
Right, so it was all, well, when they last appeared, they had the wetland delineator who did the original delineations, I guess, 2013, 14, whatever, go out and verify the line, but actually tie flags so that I can see the demarcation of the boundary. And so that was taken care of, I guess, when they last appeared in 2021. I went out last week, which I was able to happily say get a good look at the site since at the time of the year that we're in, so I had good line of sight.
Yeah.
And from comparing the drawing relative to where they show the wetlands and the breaks and contour and where I saw the vegetation change, I think it's consistent with respect to today. So one of the comments I made in the memo alludes to our code, which is like at this annual level of needing to redelineate, and I said that was basically up to the board.
Does our current drought, did our current drought impact your observation at all?
No,
Okay.
the one thing about, and funny, sometimes it goes the other direction too, where people are like, oh, don't come out because it rained last week, and it's like, hydrologic indicators are not, so ephemeral, if I may use that term. It's, there are a lot more long-standing conditions, especially in the subsurface, that drive, like, what renders, hydric soils and what would be positive wetland hydrology. So I've seen, opportunity where not really broad wetlands, but maybe sometimes you don't pick up maybe like an intermittent channel that, you're out there on a day where, it's raining or it just rained and you see some flow and you're able to establish, that rivulet. But something at this level, even in a dry spell, you should be able to, generally figure out.
And we
where the
wouldn't call
wetlands are.
these seasonal, would we? These are.
No, these are
all year-round wetlands.
These are, yeah.
Okay.
And Dennis, it's really not an annual thing that we require, but our code requires that with a permit that the wetlands should be delineated within not more than 12 months before the application.
Right.
So it's really not an annual thing that we ask you to do this annually just because you have to have these wetlands. This has to be done, and I think you referenced some potential wetlands a little bit even off-site, but to the extent that they have an impact on your site.
Right.
They have to be delineated as well, yes.
Establishment, so
But again, I
we don't
wanna
know
go
where
back
that
to
line is.
my question I still haven't received an answer on, and that is, what is the regulation in this area on this parcel?
This
Is it
is-
150 feet, is it?
This is chapter 64, yes, this is the Environmental Protection Overlay District.
So it's a 150-foot buffer at the present time, okay.
So
From
yes,
all wetlands.
Yeah.
Okay.
but however, because it is the lot was already approved previously and it is considered a buildable lot. So you know, certain pre-existing, you know, that's why we're here. You know, I guess there are certain exemptions maybe, or we're trying to get one to develop in the wetland area. The
But we
same actually
do
was in the-
acknowledge those approvals were 33 years ago.
Yeah, is there an
That
updated
was a-
resolution in 2020?
There was
No.
been,
So it was just a public hearing, but it never went to resolution?
no, the
So,
approvals are
Keith,
old.
was site plan approval issued?
No. What happened in 2020 is we appeared before the planning board and talked about the site plan. I think we did some work on the wetlands delineation and the wetlands mitigation. So we responded to a lot of the town's comments, but then we got hung up with the county because the health department was looking at the wrong version of the code. So we kind of stalled so that we can work with the county. And then once we learned from the county that they were gonna apply the correct version of the code, which is the older version of the code, then we decided to come back to this board.
Was site plan approval issued in 90?
Yes.
Okay, could you send that to me?
Sure.
Septic approval was not issued.
No, site plan.
Site plan.
Yeah, all of the town approvals were granted in 1990.
Okay, just,
I'm happy to share those.
yeah, if you could, that'd be great.
Right, and another, I guess, in terms of the town's code, you know, everything obviously changed, stormwater regulations. Then they even changed from whatever I designed to whatever it should be designed, as we could see, town's engineer provided a lot of comments because new drainage manual just came out.
Right.
So also town's code changed now, they require this road to be 20 foot instead of 16, as it was that condition previously, you know, made to widen to 16 feet.
And that was in the 1990 approval.
1990s,
Okay.
and yes, and we have the plan showing 19 foot, that's phase 2, 19-foot road, 16-foot road
Mhm.
to be extended and widened. But currently the code changed and it requires 20, so yeah, we are looking actually to comply to that code and to the best extent possible. We will be discussing tonight how to do it. So anyway, we are proposing a 3-bedroom house, short gravel driveway from the existing gravel driveway. So this is existing, which is an access way to this other property with I guess some sort of easement that could be made permanent.
Is there a covered easement now, or is it just like a gentleman's agreement?
No, there is an easement, but it is sort of like expired. It was supposed to be temporary.
Okay.
But the intent is to make this easement permanent.
Mhm.
Then this would be
So would the access be going up Twin Ridges Road and then making a left onto that road that will be improved a little bit more, that will, you know, provide access to your home and also to
Right.
the other property?
To the left, yes.
So yes, so
Which one? Yes, thank you.
so basically yeah, so this road would be the access for these two properties.
Mhm.
When we were last out there, I think Woods Lane was still just a paper road, hadn't been developed.
No,
Yeah, that's
no,
not
It's
planned.
still, it's just a woods.
so
Wet
yes.
woods.
It's like a trail.
And offsite improvements that are proposed is, I don't know, somehow not updating. Sorry about that, it's just somehow not updating the my plans.
Tessa, if it's in a different file, you're gonna have to discontinue and reshare.
Okay, yes. it's not in a different file, it just was,
Yeah.
it just was, one file and next page, so. Mhm. Yeah, so the technology not really working smoothly.
I was just thinking,
Anyway, I just wanted to switch to the page where it shows the beginning of the road, Twin Bridges Road, that where water main is extended and the road is widened. Yeah, so to begin with, yeah, that's just.
Is this the best? Well, it needs to face that way for people watching. Okay. So, well.
I stopped the screen sharing so you can try to put the image up to the,
Maybe put it over there near you, like turn towards the screen.
If it's a plan, we've all seen the plans. I think it's more important for the board to be able to see them.
Okay.
Yeah, so the road widening, basically, so we wanted to widen this road on this left side and then switch on the right side at this location. Based on different comments that I'm gonna go, further I'm gonna cover, and neighbors' responses from the previous meetings. So that's basically the extent of the work, and of course, rain garden for the stormwater management and septic system. So this is basically the reserve area, this is primary area, and a water main extension, as I mentioned. So it would start from this location and then it would come up on the Woods Lane.
So I'm a little confused on the widening of the road, and maybe Bob and Sabrina can help me out here. Is the widening of the road something that the applicant wants to do, or is the widening of the road something that code is telling you you have to do?
That is required by code for fire access, because that road serves more than 4 lots going north and east towards the lake. And it's a requirement in the code 503, so that's why it has to be widened out to 20 feet.
So
Years ago, when it came in 1990, it was at 16, but obviously it's increased since then. So that's the reason it has to be widened out to 20 feet.
So Bob, if any house were to be developed on this street, they would have to widen the road, so it's not specific to this applicant?
That is correct. And the
Okay.
whole logic behind it is every time you go up that roadway, ideally you'd like to get everything in front of each one's house 20 feet. So when everything's all said and done, if everyone ever develops, you'd have a 20-foot
Okay.
continuous road.
And that requirement is a minimum of 20 feet, and I saw in your memo, it must be able to handle fire trucks too.
That is correct. 72,000 pounds, H20, AASHTO H20 loading, yes.
And then I assume the trucks just turn around in driveways if they have to turn around.
That is correct.
Okay. Or back up, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so next I actually wanted to talk about how previously we submitted in 2020 different comparisons of two different 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom, as well as it was actually mentioned how we considered, reducing the scope of land disturbance, encroaching, I mean, they're not encroaching into the wetlands, but in general, we started with the application in 2016, where we actually proposed developing Woods Lane and basically extending the water main to that point, just like it was in 1990s. But we ran into lots of, like I said, comments from different people and agencies that we had to reduce the scope and still achieve everything that, I guess it was promised as a previous conditions for other developments.
In 1990 was the original application to access the property on Woods Lane? Was that what was approved?
No, it was, these applications were to develop the very beginning of the Twin Ridges Road, several lots over there, and these were conditions for that. I guess that phase 1 and phase 2, and I guess, I'm actually not very sure if that condition was imposed to this particular lot. I think it was imposed to the development. I mean, I have seen plans that really cover the other developments that needed that phase 2 work.
So it would be helpful if we could get that history and have that, so we understand, what was approved and the history that got you to the buildable lot.
Certainly, yeah, I think when we originally filed in 2016 or 2020, we included that information, I'm happy to resubmit it.
I think we recall that in 1990, we actually had a driveway running up Woods Lane.
No.
On the plan, yeah, but it wasn't built.
I've been there for 35 years.
So I wanted to share the screen and to show two comparisons side by side of.
Before you share the screen, I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
You said a little while ago that the county wanted you to do the main over a well, or you made a comment, you came with the well, then you switched it to a main, you guys went back and forth, and ultimately you said the county wanted the water main over the well?
Mhm.
Can you explain that?
So basically the county said that there are like different lots in the neighborhood that have public water service.
Right.
So based on that, there is obviously a rule that if the water is available, then the homeowner should connect to the public service.
And your neighbor has a well, correct? Because you're bringing the main down to your neighbor, the one who uses the driveway across you?
Actually,
I'm assuming they have a well?
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
everybody's on public water.
Yeah.
Even at the end of the street, so how do they get water if you guys bring the main?
You'll have to talk to the town.
Right, so nobody knows how they get water, in fact.
All you guys have town water?
We're the last one. The 4 houses in the end of our street are all on wells.
They're all wells, but you guys are on the main.
And
Yeah,
our
we have a service, the main stops by
Is
Bill's
it
house
possible
and we
I
have
have
a
UBS
service,
also?
like Myrna.
They're the next door neighbors with the driveway.
We're 43.
Try to figure.
We have the.
Like a memory card, maybe we will.
So how, what is your
somewhere to,
well?
like,
Water
No.
come
When
from?
I put it in, I
We're
can't
on the
share.
main.
We have a
For
water
some
meter
reason.
across
Like, I'm
from
trying to
Bill's
share
house,
and
which
I'm
is
sharing.
approximately how many feet
I don't
from.
Yeah, every time.
Can you email it to me?
If I could email?
If you email it to me,
Submitted, this is,
There's also.
It would be helpful to get what it was submitted.
but what I'm asking is,
Yeah,
is this
I
what
should've
was
been-
submitted?
Yes.
Alright,
And-
Sabrina.
can I go online and get it?
Yes.
Alright, let me try and get it.
The only one thing is that comparison from previously.
So are these wells, are they beyond this?
Sabrina, you're gonna
Or
share?
they're below this lot?
I'm gonna try.
Houses down.
To the
I'm gonna
north.
go get
To
it.
the
I'm gonna
north,
go get
yeah.
the plans and I'm gonna try.
Okay.
Yeah, central water line. These people live here.
Sabrina, try from E-code, because they were large, yeah.
But it must be just a smaller pipe that runs up.
But
the
in
main, that's
comparison,
down
would not
The
be
meter
there.
box.
right here.
Good
Right, I
for
think that's the
And
bottom.
it would be nice
Right
if
over
I
here,
could
your
share.
Bill's house.
Comparison is not there.
So our meter box is right
And so that you have like a 2-inch.
I'm not really
You're not
sure.
even sure what's there. But it's not a main.
It's a copper line that runs out.
So much.
That's a mistake.
Excuse me, Greg? Greg, can I say something just for
Sure,
clarification?
yes, please.
Yeah, the water main was required way back in 1990 by the previous town engineer, previous commissioner of public works, to bring everything up to this subject lot. That's why we have the new water main there, because there's a lot of spaghetti lines there, and it's obviously better for fire flow and potable water and more pressure in the house. And the county, and speaking to the county, Wayne Schneider, they told me, and I'm sure Tessie might know as well, that they will not approve the septic system until such time the town approves the water main extension. So if the people are on wells now, and this is the Newcastle Stanwood Water District, it would behoove them to use the well and not tie into the water main. So that's how it stands. It's a common practice on the 280A. So that water main will be installed. It has to be installed based on the conditions of approval back then. So I don't know whether that clarifies things or not.
Right.
Better water that way.
Excuse me?
The water that comes through the pipes is better than the water from the underground.
No doubt about it. I mean, they're going to get more volume, better flow, better quality.
Bob, has the DPW looked at this and considered any kind of a loop to tie in the other pipe on the other side on Woods Lane? Normally, we see that and hear that, and it's usually a better practice, but I don't know if it's
the plans that Tessie had drawn up, I have forwarded to Bart Carey. He's the Commissioner of Public Works. Him and his team will look at it, and they will be providing any comments to Tessie prior to the next planning board meeting, and I'll look into that as well, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'm gonna talk a little bit, even though, we cannot see, I don't know if I should even try to.
I just want, again, Greg brought up some great issues, and I just wanna make sure I understand what the answers were. As I understand it, the water main is got two requirements here. One is that the town always likes to have people hook up into a water main that exists, and that's just what we do. But in addition, the DOH is looking at you going onto public water, probably because this is such a difficult lot with so much wet area. Perhaps they just,
No.
they don't think there's enough space for a well,
No.
safely away from this area?
We submitted actually the plan and they were totally fine with it. They were gonna basically go forward with it, with the well on
With
the
the
lot.
well.
But that's where it was a holdup with the health department because they actually changed their mind about the well just because they investigated what's going on in the neighborhood, and the public health law basically dictates if the public water is available. And in order to get well approved, or basically in order to get the water service, town also needs to say that they would be okay with it. So they were gonna approve it, but because everybody else has the public water service, for that reason, we almost needed to get from the town a letter stating, well, the public water is not available for this particular lot, for us to be able to have a well when everybody surrounding the property has a public water service. So for that reason, although technically a public water service is considered not available if it's not in front of your lot. If you cannot simply hook up to the water main, which is supposed to be in front of your lot, technically it's supposed to be not available definition. But everybody else in the neighborhood somehow got that, whatever they got, some kind of a service lines. I don't know who approved that, because now in these days they're absolutely not approving all those service lines that are going through the lots, through whatever, and nobody knows where they are. So the right way to do it is to have the water main in the road, and that's what is basically required. Same with, so we want to correct all the wrongs. So,
Sabrina is sharing the
oh,
screen.
okay,
Got
so
it.
this is the, all right, so,
Tessa, just tell me what page to go to, please.
actually, it could stay probably on this page for now. I wanted still to compare the, 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom, which is not a part of this set, and it is a part of the presentation which I cannot share. So anyway, so the conclusion is that set was submitted in 2020, and I guess we went back and forth. We pretty much just showed how the difference between 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom is negligible. And I want to actually correct one statement that it was from the planning that says how about, because it's the house is 2,770 square feet. How about reducing it and like maybe reducing also the impact? So this house, 2,770, it's a floor area. It's not a coverage of the lot, it's floor area, meaning the second floor, the first floor, and plus a garage. So 2,770 encompasses all of that. So it's not really direct way. You cannot assess, it does not disturb the land, it does not have any impact to develop your second floor. So the building coverage for this particular whatever it is proposed currently on the set, so is I think it was 1,600. So this is building coverage, if I'm not mistaken. It should be
But
somewhere.
we would want to hear from you in terms of, again, they have all the information from 2016 or 2020. What the delta is in terms of what we all know is the septic impact. So you said it's negligible, probably is, but if you could tell us what those numbers are in terms of the septic field that you're going to have to build,
Right.
and then also the expansion area. And then, I'm sure Dennis will be interested in knowing not only just the size, but what happens and what are the opportunities for saving any additional trees and other impacts to this is all obviously land that's in the wetland buffer. So to the extent we can minimize that or reduce it, it could be of interest. But again, if it comes down to it, it's 37 square feet, okay, who cares? It's not a big deal. So we would need to see those numbers from you, so
Yes.
And again, based on today's code too.
Yes.
You're referencing impervious is different than FAR.
Yes.
Right.
So
Right.
if we could
Coding.
switch to the page 4. So this is 3, another one, next. Okay, so it shows this septic system, which is now updated, and this is actually the current submission to the health department, which all we are waiting is just for the water service to get approval. So basically it's 446 linear feet, so 184 for the 3-bedroom house. For a 2-bedroom house, in terms of septic, it would be 125 linear feet.
So it's 384,
No, 184.
184.
So these trenches, so this is primary area, right?
Mhm.
So they are 446 each.
Okay,
So it's 184 linear
gotcha.
feet of septic required for this house. And so this is the reserve area. And if that would be 2-bedroom, it would be 125, which means 60 linear foot less. So basically, like 10 foot from here would be reduced. So what does it do? Well, the disturbance line still pretty much would be the same. It doesn't really save any trees because the setback to all the trees have to be 10 foot from the septic field. So with the septic, there's only short-term temporary impacts. There is no long-term impacts to the wetlands because the way septic is designed, if it in these days, obviously, we all have to construct septic according to the Westchester County Health Department code. And even back in the day, the setback was required to be 50 feet to the wetlands. So in order to treat sanitary sewer, you are required, based on the science, 50 foot and 4 feet of the soil. So after that, it's just basically drinking water, so it gets treated. So there is no, in terms of pollution or anything like that, from the septic to the wetlands.
Is this septic design today's standards or the 1990 standards?
So the septic is designed to today's standards.
Today's standards.
The only thing that's different is that we have 65-foot separation to the wetlands. But we do have 100-foot separation as it is required according to today's standards from the stream, and that's what state really cares about, just as, water bodies, not really local wetlands.
Where's the stream on the map?
What's that?
Where's the stream on the map?
So the stream, so I also have this, so the stream is right here.
Mm-hmm.
And it terminates here.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Why don't we locate the septic on the other side of the road, primary, and right next to the building, and then have this as the expansion?
That was one of my questions.
I don't understand that because normally the county does not like to see septic on another side of a roadway, or I guess this is gonna become a road.
Well, that's the driveway that's gonna stay gravel, I believe.
But I
it
think
is
that's,
on the other side of it.
yeah, it's gonna be improved.
And you have to work on, you have to go underneath it with pipes to get to the
And
septic.
they normally don't like that
I
unless
agree.
there's no other alternative, so.
And I was
don't
surprised
understand
that
why.
wasn't the expansion.
Right,
And
exactly.
the primary wasn't on the other end
Yeah,
of the street.
flip it.
But I figured that would come up.
So why is it
Do you follow what
not-
we're saying?
Yeah, so why this is not primary?
We're looking.
Looks like it's out of the wetlands.
From this wetland, we probably, I don't know if.
Well, we don't have that, delineation, but I think it's safe to say that any of them are within the 150
You're
foot buffer.
encumbered.
Yeah,
No matter what.
I think like you said.
If you wanna
the
play one
150
wetland off
lines-
the other, you're gonna have to make that determination as, well, this one's of higher quality because of this one's a lower quality because, not just use it to help direct how you want your design to be. I'm just warning you from the start for that, that's all.
That's a very good point, thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the other issue.
Oh, there's a pocket.
The buffer goes through
It goes through both,
It goes through.
And that's-
right.
that's only 100 foot, so it's
the, well,
150.
100 feet, it goes through the expansion.
Yeah.
Also,
I mean, if you guys were to do a diagram that shows the property line, the setbacks, delineation of the wetland setbacks, the easement for the city, the existing driveway, I don't know if there's anything left that's bigger than a postage stamp.
Oh, no, that's the problem. Yeah, no problem.
so, so we have the stream, but we're able to meet all the setbacks required, and we have DP actually went to the site and verified the stream location, so it's shown and we have their confirmation, and DP actually within that letter said that as long as the septic is located, so this is 100-foot line from that stream.
Right.
So as long as septic is located beyond that, they are okay. And so the county is also okay with the septic, the way it is designed, so like I said, we're about to get the approvals.
Well, but it's gonna be subject to our wetland law, and again, this is even further from your stream. It's more than 100 feet from the stream. Now, to Dennis's point, it may be closer to another wetland, and I think this issue of comparing and knowing the quality, the issues of the two wetlands is important, that should be part of the study. So it's not just a delineation and looking at a piece of paper in 2 dimensions, how is this all functioning out there in real life?
So
But,
we did that thorough study and we have wetland scientists to present that
Mm-hmm.
and talk about the wetlands, so I didn't want to actually go into that
sure,
discussion.
understood.
But we did those, we looked into that, we
Okay.
did wetlands functional study and like I said, wetland
One of
scientists need to
one of the
present
issues
that.
that we often tackle with these septics is with cooperation with the applicant is seeking a waiver of the actual build out of the expansion area from the Department of Health. And in this case, if we don't have to build out that expansion area, if we flip it so that you have the septic primary closer to the home and on the other side of the road, perhaps there's an opportunity not to build out or cut down things or, you know, put in the expansion. Now, when you flip it this way, it doesn't matter because you're going to be disturbing this anyway, probably making it lawn, et cetera. So why not use that as the septic and perhaps we can save the area, the expansion area, south of the road. And
Well, so far over there, we would have to cut down 3 trees. If we were to switch to the other side, we would have to cut down also 3 trees. So, and I'm looking right now, so these are the trees that are remaining.
Mhm.
So basically it's the same, and like I said, there is no impact to the wetland when the septic is installed. Only the temporary disturbance while it's excavating, putting trenches, only that. Once it is installed, there is absolutely no
That's for the
impact.
septic.
So,
but
so
for the
mankind's footprint has no impact, because once everything is built, it's just in perpetuity, not, see, what I think what the chairman is trying to say is that the moving of it is a minimization of the impact regardless of the footprint that is developed, or even the trees that may come down, because A, you're potentially moving it further away from what is a surface water body, or B, whatever the contours and drainage of that area may be, if something were to fail, although I know you say it's not going to, but if something were to fail, is there a delay? Is there an impedance? Is there a probability that it doesn't end up in the waterway, but it gets contained or diverted somehow because you were able to locate it in a spot that results in less of an impact? Not just the construction of it, not just the footprint, but the actual operation and perpetuity of human beings on the planet. I mean, it's kind of that concept.
All septic tanks are located in this area. So let's say when the septic fails, you're saying, in that particular
I'm just saying, if
area?
you could move, you know, our sins further away from a wetland system or from a surface water, that in and of itself is a minimization of impacts to wetlands, and that's part of what the code directs you to do.
But it's
Avoidance
not
is
a
not a
way-
possibility, but minimization could be a possibility, minimization of an impact to the wetlands. I know that it sounds, you know, tedious, and it sounds it may be minimal in nature, but that's what wetlands are. They're not an inconvenience. It's something that you have to sort of respond to as a resource, as a regulated resource, not just locally, but these wetlands would no doubt be regulated by the Corps of Engineers too. It's just that they don't regulate buffers. So I'm trying not to sort of minimize the wetlands in the system, even though it's great that you're avoiding the direct impacts to the wetlands. If there's ways, to the chairman's point, to further minimize, those are evaluations that at least we would have to sort
So
of consider.
we have 65 feet now from the wetlands, from these wetlands, 65 feet. If we were to bring that as primary, we are much closer to these wetlands.
You
So
are, but
basically
what is
this
the, but what is the drainage? Well, how would water potentially, like, in other words, you could be further away, but still end up more likely to impact based on
So,
topography, slope, conveyance, whatever it may
Right,
be.
so-
So sometimes just distance is not the only factor. And there's a lot of this application that seems to be artifacting these older approvals, and that's why my memo is very concentrated on, I need a little bit more updated to sort of capture what's going on, because I can't effectively answer questions if people ask me, well, what's being impacted, what's being mitigated, is the mitigation sufficient? I don't really have enough to to support those conclusions.
Understood, we appreciate the comment, we've looked at this property from, every possible angle and presented the plan that we believe provides the least amount of disturbance. That being said, if there's another way to further minimize the disturbance, we're happy to take a look at it. So to your point, if we could flip the primary area with the expansion area and that works and it reduces the amount of disturbance, then we'll certainly consider that. So we'll get back to you.
If I may, it's very difficult, the people who are watching this cannot really understand where you're pointing on the map. I think that it would be most helpful if you could respond to Dennis's comments and consider, yes, there is a history here, but none of that history, other than indicating this is a lot, is relevant. We really need to plan to today's standards, and the objective here now is to minimize the impact. Right? And so while you said that you've looked at this every way till Tuesday, you haven't provided anything to the planning board that says this is the best layout possible. And I think that's what the planning board needs in order to understand approving a project such as this with these environmental constraints.
Well said.
Understood, and we've received the memos from staff, and we're obviously gonna take a close look at those and respond in writing. So you'll have an itemized response to all those comments, and we appreciate the comments from the board this evening, and we'll be happy to respond in writing to those as well.
Can I say one thing, please, to
Sure.
Sabrina's point? From a draftsman point of view, please test when you resubmit it. Make it very clear where the wetlands line is with the line weight and the thickness, and make it very clear where the 150 buffer is from each and every one of these very unusually shaped wetlands. And use colors, because I look at this map and I cannot determine where the wetlands buffer is, where the wetlands are. It's very difficult. All the line weights are the same, all the line types are the same. So you really have to just spruce this up a bit to make it very easy to see, and using different colors for different types of wetlands in the buffer would definitely get that point across so everyone can understand exactly the impacts.
So like I mentioned, there is no 150 buffer line.
That's what it was.
Because if we were to step back from here, we're gonna end up in the other wetland.
But
We're
you
not
have to
asking
show
you
the
to,
line.
we're not asking you to stay out of the 150-foot buffer line. You have very limited area to put your house. We're asking you to show that line on the plan so we understand where it is in relation to what you want to construct.
And I
So
believe
the
that.
house is surrounded by wetlands. If we set back,
It
they are
looked
going
like a
to
Venn diagram,
interlock.
it looked like a Venn diagram where we're all crossed, but when I'm looking here, especially when it was printed, like the stream, I think the color is white, so I couldn't even see the stream here. Make them thick, show the 150-foot buffer, we know it's going to go over the house.
But 150-foot buffer is never shown in another wetland.
But it's the code,
It's a code,
it's
we
the
need to
code,
see
it's
the
the
code.
law.
I
So
understand,
we're
but
saying we
with
wanna
this
see it.
particular
Like,
situation
We
is-
wanna see the 150-foot buffers on the wetland on a drawing.
Can you do that for next time?
Please do that.
Okay.
The entire site is within the 100.
That's
We
okay,
know,
we
we
wanna
know.
see it.
But to Jeff's point, we
But
understand this.
engineeringly, like the way we usually put the buffer on, let's say if there is a wetland and it goes all, from all the sides. So we set back and whatever is left, basically if it takes over the other wetland in front of it, so we are not showing that this is still 150-foot buffer, basically that area is taken out. So
But it's a
if
permitted
we're
area,
gonna
you're
set
going
back
for a
from all the
permit.
directions, we don't have 150-foot buffer. Everything is
So
in
then,
our-
Tessam, then
I
let me
understand
suggest,
that. We'll do
let me suggest you do an environmental map, separate and apart from your development proposal, and you take this lot and you put all of the environmentals on it, the environmental features on it.
So my cover page shows these two green areas basically, and like on this side, we don't have it delineated. So if we were to go to the cover page, so this is just based on this delineation, the cover, so first.
And if you look on the cover page, your site doesn't show up because the pen's not turned on.
This is basically the site.
No, your site doesn't show up on the cover page.
Need more work.
So this is the site, right? No, this is the site. So this is the site. This is the site. This green represents wetland, and then we have on this side the wetland. They are obviously not accurate.
What
because,
represents
they're not
the
delineated.
setback from wetlands?
So we cannot establish this wetland because
So
this is
maybe
on
you could
another side.
demarcate, one represents the 150-foot buffer from a delineated wetland per Dr. Danzer, and the other is mapped because it is not part of the property and we couldn't get onto the property to do the delineation. I think it's still valuable though, what the board's trying to
Okay.
sort of get fleshed out. And to Jeff's point, it's gonna be a Venn diagram, we
Exactly.
understand.
We understand that. We understand that. But we can't not have that information, not have that drawn on the site plan. It's useless to us if you don't do that. It's like saying, well, I can't do it, so I'm just gonna use a 40-foot. Well, that's crazy. That's not what our regulation is. So we have to see the 150 on there. We understand, as Jeff has said very, very accurately, very appropriately, it's gonna be a Venn diagram, lots of overlapping. We understand that you are very tightly constrained. But the buffer areas are the areas that we can permit. So what we're talking about is getting a wetland permit. And fortunately, I think you're completely outside of wetlands, so it's just wetland buffers that are being impacted.
Right, okay. So then I wanted, I guess, to switch to that page where it showed, let's see. Okay. Right, so.
Help me out here, where am I going?
We can actually move on, I mean, I just wanted, I guess I already explained, road widening, so
I
if
just
there
got
are
one more
any more
question on,
questions,
yep, on the,
we
on
can
the,
move on to the wetland scientist and.
on the road, to widen the road and to put in the water main, do you have to go onto other people's property?
No. So this is.
So all that work happens outside of all the neighbors along Twin Ridges?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and like I said, there were some other concerns about, the properties, the first segment from the cross section, so like for the for the road.
So is that
meetings.
road sitting in a right of way? Bob, that's a private road, right?
Yes, it is. It's private,
And it-
private unapproved.
And this is the right of way, this is the right of way.
So that road has a right of way already,
Yes.
and you're doing all your work in the right of way of that
Yes, in the
road?
right of way, and we are widening, like I said, on the right side, this segment, because this lot is not developed and this lot is not developed, so we have all this area and nobody's complaining. But where, the rock people and the lots were developed, in that particular area, we actually addressed the concerns. I went and documented the big trees in front of people's properties, and they were actually, reasonable concerns. They did not want those trees to be removed. And that's why we are doing extension on
That's
the
why you're
other
doing
side,
other
and
side.
that's why this widening of that road is going to be gravel. We're proposing gravel, something structural, because it's very close to the wetland. So first, some structural membrane to keep like the gravel in place, and just to have some sort of like a walkway with the vegetative buffer, and Tracy's gonna talk a little bit more about it.
Just as an administration question for you, council, I guess, do they need to get permission from all the residents on that road to work on the road?
Well, if the work's being done in the right of way, then the other lots should be subject to the right of way. So the short answer is probably not, but.
But the backhoe, putting it in needs to be in the road, not 5 feet on the side. You're not gonna get a 5-foot temporary construction easement, be coming down side to install it from the outside of the road.
Yeah, I would have to think they're going right down the middle of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's.
That's what I was
do it
asking,
Without
going
getting
onto other
temporary
people's
construction
property.
easement.
Currently, we have no plans to go onto anyone else's property, but we'll verify that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, so please let me know the best orientation for everyone here. How's this?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, board members. I'm just gonna generally go over the wetland mitigation plan for the parcel. As we know, there will probably be some site plan revisions here. And this is an interesting property in that there's a lot of opportunity for improvement in a twofold manner. First of all, there's quite a bit of invasive, non-native invasive vegetation throughout this parcel. And that's an opportunity in that we can remove that and give the existing native vegetation more air, light, and space to grow and thrive. And the second part of this is to then come back in with native wetland plants and native upland plants to enhance that and to add to the layering of the property. Another important thing to note about this proposed site plan is that there's quite minimal yard proposed. That's this very light green area here. It's really just immediately around the house. And to demarcate that, there's a split rail fence proposed on the perimeter of that yard.
Your yard you define as grass, lawn?
Yes,
Okay.
maintain lawn or grass. And there are other things we can do beyond that to even improve further, you know, for example, if an organic lawn care program is used, that helps protect the wetlands and the buffer. So that's something that could also be looked into. I'm not sure if we had given the number of trees to be removed with the earlier presentation, but it's marked in red, the trees to be removed, and again, we kept it quite minimal. So it is, it's a total of, sorry, bear with me 1 second as I read my charts. Okay, so there are 11 trees to be removed. A total of 14, okay, so 11 trees that are in the 4-inch to 17-inch DBH size range, and then 3 trees that are above 18-inch DBH. So the tree replacement.
Does that include the water line extension as well, and the road widening, or is that just on the lot?
This site plan shows the well that was previously approved. So these numbers could change slightly, you know, with any edits, but.
You're showing
it's
2 more
just
being,
starting.
what I think he's saying is there's 2 more that are coming out that are over 18 inches.
Along the road, I
Along the
was
road.
asking, along the road,
Oh.
when
Your
they
other-
widen the road and put in the main, are they taking down trees along there? Two?
No, the water main is in the center of the road.
Okay, so off-site, there are 2.
Yeah.
Yes, yep, thank
There
you,
it
yep,
is.
yep, exactly.
And they were
So
18
that those
inches?
are
No,
here,
there are 2 of them together are 70 inches.
Seven?
yes,
7D.
7D.
17,
Ooh,
yep.
17.
70, 70.
7-0.
So 2 trees equals 70 inches,
Yes.
got it.
Mhm.
Okay, so they're large.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But the replacement has been accounted for in the design of this plan for the regulations, is the important thing to note.
Well, there was an issue on that replacement, I wanna make sure that maybe Dennis can explain it. But replacement within the wetland doesn't count as replacement for the trees. You can't get a 2-for-1 in terms of mitigation for the wetland and for the trees. So to the extent that you're planting trees outside the wetland, those will count, or wetland, the regulated area.
Okay.
And I'm just,
That's the 35,000 foot summary.
Summary.
Yeah.
and
That's
I
as
just
low
wanna
as on the weeds,
I just wanna go
exactly.
back to those 2 big trees, are they healthy? I mean, those 2 36-inch trees, or 35, or one's 40, or one's 30, or whatever, are they 2 big, healthy trees? And how do you mitigate taking down a 40-inch tree with an 1.5-inch caliper new tree? It's hard for me understand taking down a mature tree like that and just say, we're gonna plant a couple little ones. So when you guys looked, did you look to relocate the road so you didn't take down those big trees? Or those big trees have to come?
No, so the big trees on the road,
Mm-hmm.
of the widening, no, these big trees that would not be coming down. We are widening on the other side, there are no trees.
You have a maple coming down, it looks like on the top, right? That looks like it's a maple and then,
So yes, so where we are widening on the right side, yes,
yeah,
Those are to be removed.
those are
Those
to be
two trees
removed,
would be
yes, yes.
Well, the other issue is make sure that they're not going to be impacted if not taken down by, the roots.
Well, that's the other thing, is once you start ripping up,
Exactly.
you're gonna hit half the root structure.
it's a 28 and a 42.
Yeah, 42 is a 120-year-old tree.
Under our code, it's a specimen tree.
Yeah, it's like that apple tree where the moss like what, right? It's something to think about.
Bob? Bob?
Dick, you had something? A
Yeah.
question?
What happened to the well on this? I didn't hear anything about it being closed or what. Is that gonna be part of the project?
I'm sorry, the well?
Yeah.
No, the well is no longer.
An issue, no longer part of the application.
The health department fixed it.
Right. So no well, Dick, just public water.
What kind of water?
Public,
From a new water main.
From the Poland Spring plant.
So, outside of the proposed lawn area, in the areas colored with, the various shades of green, this is all areas where invasive vegetation will be removed and will restore with a layered vegetative native effect of canopy trees, understory trees, and shrubs. In total, 24 canopy trees of 2.5-inch caliper. And some of those are evergreens actually along this boundary line for screening and privacy. And
Are those the invasive trees, the 24? Or are they just trees?
these are proposed native canopy trees.
Okay.
The 24, the count is 24, and the size is a minimum of 2.5-inch caliper, DBH.
Okay.
And 13 understory trees, so those are defined as trees 40 feet and less, the canopy trees are 40 feet and greater. 159 native shrubs, and the minimum size for those would be 3 feet tall upon planting, and then 42 native perennials. So again, trying to create layering, increase the biodiversity and the environment of the site. So the wetlands are here, this is the wetland line here, and here is another wetland corridor, and there's a portion of wetlands down here as well, just to give you a graphic representation. And this is along this west side of the road is where Tessa was speaking about widening it to 20 feet, but it would be the structural gravel adjacent to the existing roadway to help meet that
And
code.
are those shrubberies you have along the edge or something?
Yeah, so these are also a number of native shrubs and of a few different species. And they would be planted, they might have to shift over ever so slightly because this does need to be updated for the 20-foot road width. So these may end up just a little bit more towards the wetlands, just shifted a little bit more west. And
So a clarification, maybe you and Dennis can help me, because this is more in your world than mine. I understand there's invasive and there's non-native. If it's non-native, is it evasive or is it just non-native?
if it's non-native, it isn't necessarily invasive, no. But, we observed several species there that we definitely would want to remove because they are invasive and they would keep proliferating.
So where I'm trying to go is, I can understand if you have a species that's invasive and it's really causing problems, or if you have a species that are invasive and they're not causing problems, and they're part of the ecosystem, do we damage the existing ecosystem more by just saying, I'm getting rid of all invasive species? Does that do more damage to the buffers and the wetlands? And maybe it's not all invasives get removed and it's a strategic and a surgical, let's get rid of those and those, but these over here are actually doing something. I mean, I know I had a tree guy in my house that wanted to cut down every single Norway maple, and I'm like, well, they're functioning as trees and birds and squirrels live in them. But just because you don't like them because they're not native, so I just wanna make sure we're being, because this area is very sensitive. We all know it's wet, it's a swamp. We're trying to squeeze a house in, and my main concern is that we're gonna do so much damage to this area between the widening of the road, putting in the water main, getting out the invasives, and then building a house, that it's really gonna be damaged for quite some time. And I know in a nature eventually heals herself, but is it gonna be 30 years before that whole area is healed because we're trying to squeeze this house in? So that's why I'm just asking those questions.
That's a fair, so I mean, I included some of that in my memo that I would like a little more baseline, for lack of a better description, to help sort of foster and advance, you know, what they're doing here to kind of illustrate what that improvement would be. So, for example, when I was at the site and looking around, I did notice, you know, in the area that I was standing, okay, this looks like a dense understory of privet. Privet is a non-native colonizer. I'm like, that's an example. And not only am I standing here observing this species, but there's like a density. It's not just pockets of it. So I almost like envision, which I think would serve as a good baseline, is that you're not only going to do like an inventory, but you almost end up developing, as we used to do this back in the day, like you do like these almost like cover type maps, you know? So it's like you're able to come up with like these amorphous bubbles or cloud, you know, whatever encompassing, and you're able to sort of show, you know, these 5 species or in whatever makes you designate that bubble. You say, well, this includes 5 species, 1 is native, 4 is invasive, and one of those invasives, you know, dominates the cover type. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, that looks like that area could serve as close to nuking, for lack of a better description, you know. But then you come to another bubble area, and it's like, to your point, it's kind of like a mix and match. You don't go in with a nuclear device. It's more of that, you know, adaptive management approach to, and then, you know, that also leads to ultimately, because again, you're gonna have to get credit at 1.5 to 1 ratio here for buffer because you're under chapter 64. It's like, how is that weighted in terms of like what you're looking to do? So there is some mathematical here, but then there's also that, you know, not so defined weighting that's going to be predicated upon, you know, what it exactly is that you have and what exactly that you're doing.
May I interject for a moment?
Sure,
For the record, Steve Danzer, professional wetland scientist, soil scientist, I was the one that delineated the wetlands. I'll be brief. I just want to pipe in. I understand what you're doing. I think we're going to have to meet somewhere halfway. Most of that site is a mosaic of invasives, and what I mean mosaic is that they're interspersed with each other. They're not like discrete clumps. It's not the type of site that's amenable to doing a cover map with a lot of detail. But surely we can come up with some type of graphic to make your.
If you want to propose an alternative, based on, you obviously have more provenance on that site than I do. That's fine, but you understand what I need to get conveyed to get.
And the other thing is, at the end of the day, I have worked with Tracy and with other people on a number of these invasive removals, and I think that one of the concepts that people are kind of gunning for is that there are some valuable plants that are out there. And generally our protocol, and I think most people's protocol in this day and age when they deal with invasives removal, is to go out there with an expert to tag the invasives that are going to be removed, basically some type of environmental monitoring, and that's what we kind of envision in this. So whoever the landscape contractor is, that they remove exactly what is needed and preserve what isn't. And that alone will you know, provides a mechanism to maintain the land, you know, as it is with the positives that are there now. So I guess that more addresses, I think there was a comment from you were gonna be. But you know, in order not to make an unnecessary disturbance, so that is generally addressed when we have our boots on the ground. My familiarity with that site, because I was first out there in 2013, I was out there in 2014, I was out there in 2020, I was out there in 2021, I was probably out there sometime in between, but those are the times that I had to generate reports. There's just an immense amount of invasives out there. That is not inconsistent with other ecosystems in that area. I mean, that's generally what we find in Westchester and where I'm from in Connecticut as well, unfortunately. But we kind of look at this as an opportunity to improve by removing at least some of the invasives. It's not like we're doing this because we have to. I understand that, you know, there's parts in the code and there's parts with, you know, to meet the tree removals and all that. But we're really doing this because that's what we normally do when we propose something that's, you know, within proximity to a wetland. We look for ways to improve the site, and that's an easy way to do it.
Right, and then as a spin-off off of that, and that's kind of in my memo too, and to what Bob was saying before, like that you can't receive double credit. So where mitigation is being advanced, right, we're not planting a tree in a lawn, that's not gonna be mitigation, but you would get tree replacement credit for that tree. That's also, again, the way it works here in the land of Newcastle and navigating all these codes, that's helpful to me also to sort of like help bifurcate those two worlds and to come to that conclusion.
With the caveat, as we've all discussed ad nauseum, every part of this site is within the wetland buffer.
Agreed, but you would admit that, you know, if you're gonna maintain something as lawn that was formerly forest and understory, regardless of the species composition, I can't really accept that as a functional improvement to a wetland, maintained weekly lawn with a tree in the middle. You know what I'm saying? So like that's the dividing line.
That's fine,
Yeah,
we get you there.
That's all.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna sit down.
That's all I'm gonna
Everybody's
do.
saying too.
No.
Just one thing.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to hear us.
Yeah. So, and Dennis, I can clarify that for you right now. The lawn was not counted in the invasive species removal. None of the proposed development was counted in that square footage. The area that was counted is, you know, this area excluding this area. So basically the balance of the site where we're not developing. So when we say it's 72,600 square feet of on-site invasive species removal,
right,
that number does not include the lawn area, the house, the driveway. That's just a measurement of these areas.
Okay.
And I think you also had, you wanted a clarification about whether or not invasive species were being removed from the wetlands, and the answer is yes, they are.
Okay, so that's part of the quantification then of the invasive species removal.
That is included in the 72,600 square feet,
So,
correct?
right, so when I broke down these numbers, that's why I was like, well, if they're not doing anything in wetlands, I can't make the math work. Or maybe I'm just misdoing the numbers, like I just didn't know, so.
We'll
that was
double
all.
check those
Okay.
calculations and get back to you on that, yes,
Okay.
just wanted to.
So then
make
it
that clear.
definitely, and then to add to then, so from the wetlands perspective, I definitely would wanna see that, like, you know,
Yes.
where you're working on, exactly, so, okay.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on Woods Lane, I'm not sure who it goes to. So right now, you guys are not touching Woods Lane and you're gonna tap into that existing driveway to go across to maintain access to their home and to get access to your new
I
home.
believe we're running a water line
But you're not making the road. So I'm just asking, what happens if in 5 years from now, the parcel page north to you, Ashlander, they decide they wanna build? Do they come back and they have to build Woods Lane?
That's their only way in.
Would that be their, I'm kinda asking this to us, not the applicant.
I believe that would be the case.
They would have to tap into Woods Lane and build Woods Lane.
Well, also tap into the water main too.
And then they would tap into the water main.
Right.
That's if
Can
Woods
I-
Lane or if the Sherman
Right.
property ever got
Can I
developed.
say something?
Yes, please.
You know, if I may, the original plan as approved in 1990 did show Woods Lane being improved with a gravel driveway. If, whatever it's worth.
In 1990.
Yes.
Okay. But 1990 also shows 40-foot setbacks apply too, so, right? I think we probably can't cherry pick.
Yeah, I mean, it would be up to the planning board on what is the least impactful way to go, and I think that was decided, but it did show it back then.
Right.
Yeah, no, we did the analysis of developing Woods Lane versus maintaining the driveway. Obviously, there's much less impact with this plan. I mean, I really don't want a driveway running in front of my house, but yeah, it's clearly
No, I
less
understand.
impactful.
And you know, those properties back there probably have the same issues that your properties have.
Yeah, if I might mention, I wasn't around in 1990, although I was probably old enough, unfortunately, to be around. But keep in mind that where Woods Lane intersects Twin Bridges, the entrance, that's wetlands.
Oh, that, yeah.
It
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, back in 1990, I don't know where that entered in that discussion, but to improve that road now, they would have to impact the wetlands. They would go right through it.
They have to fill it.
And there's a second pocket, smaller pocket of wetland that shows up in my thing, I don't think it's on your thing, that also infringes on that road as well, so it actually would impact two wetland systems.
Okay.
Is it possible, we mentioned this a couple times, with the wetlands, the off-site wetlands, you know, without going onto the property, can you, I mean, with your background and expertise, so it's not really speculation, but give us some sort of information regarding the wetland to the west of Woods Lane in terms of its quality, its function, what it's doing? I
So
suspect.
there's two wetlands to the west.
Okay.
The one around the cul-de-sac or the one at the entrance?
Where are they, whichever ones fall where the 150-foot buffer from those wetlands, and I presume it might be both. If there are two that are involved on your site, if you could give us some sort of an assessment as to what you believe or think those functions are, the
We
level
already
of
did.
function.
Actually, we did in 2020, we actually submitted, Dennis Dennis had asked us to do what we call functional analysis, where we basically look at all the wetlands and figure out what the most vibrant functions that they do, and we actually submitted for the record a 60-page document that I don't really believe, that I understand no one other than Dennis and I had actually read and analyzed, but we went through all that, and we actually have that. The other thing is that we did delineate those wetlands, and we can calculate the offsets. It's not clear in those maps,
Yeah.
we're, line with stuff,
Right,
but
right.
the information is available. It's not like we didn't delineate enough of the wetlands. All the wetlands that generate the offset that's meaningful to you is there. We have the
Great.
data, it's in the
Great.
map, it just needs to be.
Yeah, so could you capture that for us in executive summary in terms of your analysis of those levels of function and relative function?
And this kind of looks like, this red line is kind of, I mean, just look at the drawing, right? The wetland looks like it's kind of.
Yeah, that's not my line, so I
Oh,
can't-
the red, I just did the red line.
Yeah.
That's mine. I'm just going by the little, the
Yeah, it's
pochette.
actually this. So the cul-de-sac,
Oh, so this is not the lineage, so this house isn't sitting in a wetland according to this?
no,
Okay.
there's a house here, but, and this is where Twin Ridges hits, that there's a wetland system there, and then, I apologize. We'll make a better effort so everyone can see this for next time, but, and like I said, the offsets are clear from this. We have enough information. I think what Tessa was referring to is this wetland, this comes around and meets this somewhere up here. We obviously did not, that's way offsite, so we didn't do that, plus it's so dense as far as vegetation, so it's very difficult terrain once you get out into this area, but you don't need to know that because what's important is where the activity is and we have those wetlands.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Great.
We don't have anything else at this time. We received, like I said before, the staff memos. We appreciate all the comments and questions tonight. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to coming back with some more information.
Okay, well, I think we'll take a few moments here and run through some of these comments on the staff memos. So Sabrina, would you like to provide us with your comments?
Happy to do so. I guess my, a lot of my comments have been covered in the general discussion that the board has been having, showing clear depiction of the wetland and the wetland buffer lines. Information regarding the front yard variance for Woods Lane and a variance in accordance with 280A, and that's to correct the plan reference. It's not 288, but 280-A. That should be corrected. The aqueduct that's owned by the city should be replicated on all of the plans so that that's in clear view. Again, the discussion of the 2-bedroom lot. Hang on a second. Previously, the planning board requested a redesign of the house to lessen the impact on the lot. Again, we're talking about that. We really need to understand the relationship of what you want to build in relation to the impacts on the wetland system. And that's really important for you to submit so that we can assess it, and the board has that information and we can put it in, include it as part of the file. The stream, the applicant noted that the stream has been verified. It should be placed on the plans. Verification from DEP was not included in the submission as it was referenced in the information. The project would be a type 2 action. And most importantly, I think it's important that the planning board feel comfortable with the plan, especially in regards to the wetland impacts, wetland buffer impacts, and the mitigations prior to either referring the application to the ZBA or setting a public hearing.
And Sabrina, as I recall, last time around, there was considerable comment from the city with regard to the aqueduct. Can we get that correspondence, brought forward so that we have it?
Sure.
With the revised application?
Sure.
Terrific, thank you.
And are those the notes that are on drawings 1 of 3? Are those the notes from the city?
There was correspondence.
Yeah, okay. There's notes that are showed up on the drawings. Yeah. Based on meetings with the city and the county. But they're kind of boilerplate.
Yeah.
Don't build anything on top and stuff.
We can go through the file and see what memos and references we have regarding that and bring it forward. And if we don't have it, the applicant should have it.
Right.
We're happy to resubmit those.
Terrific, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Bob, you had some comments?
Yes, I would imagine at this time you want the shortened version, Mr. Chairman.
Very much so.
Basically, several of my comments have to do with the technical aspects of the stormwater, ST1, ST2, ST3, ST4. A lot of these I put in here would definitely impact the amount of runoff coming from the new site. Some of these numbers were not accurate. They just have to go through it, which I try to delineate. Basically ST1 all the way up to pretty much ST6, ST7's a standard. They should meet all the requirements in ST7 and the Chapter 108 protocol. 8 and 9 are critical. I cannot find any evidence of any witnessing by the town for the rain gardens and the infiltration trench. The infiltration trench will require percolation test as well. Obviously, this is in the East Hudson watershed, is going to require a DEC permit from them only for erosion and sedimentation control. It does not exceed an acre. So believe it or not, they don't really look at the post-stormwater management systems. That's something we look at in Chapter 108A. Keep in mind, this is not a complete technical review of everything. That will be looked at, and those comments will be sent under separate cover. That's ST12. General comments, GC 1 and 2, had to do with what was discussed already, and Tessa did address that. Long story short, the widening of the roadway, there's many ways to skin a cat. There's ways to put tough turf in there. They can put gravel pave, which does not have any it would be really considered an pervious, but they'd have to do testing on that. It might be the way to go to satisfy maybe some of the neighbors with the runoff GC1, GC2. Also too, they should perform some testing on the actual sub-base for the existing drive. Might not be sufficient depth, you might have to add more material to it and make up the difference with either some top or minor course. GC5 or general high-level comments we're gonna need for the water main. These are just very general. The water main runs across private property. Obviously, town council has to look at water main easements across this property and the right-of-way of Twin Ridges Road. You'll have to submit a construction cost estimate for the water main. There'll be an engineering inspection fee, 3%, post 100% performance bond and a 10% maintenance once it's done. And of course, this whole thing has to be approved by Westchester County. Comprehensive technical review will be done with the water main. I sent it over to DPW. They'll look at it. We'll get those comments out to the applicant's engineer prior to the next meeting. And last but not least, clearly indicate the limits of disturbance for the total development on site and off site as well. And those end my comments for right now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Bob. Sure.
Bob, on ST1, the maximum rain garden is 1,000 feet, but could they do 2 more rain gardens to cover that 2,860? Or do they max out rain garden as 1,000 feet and they need to come up with another system?
They can do them in series.
Okay, so they can
Takes
do
up a lot of
3
room.
rain
It's-
gardens.
Yeah, they can do a combination of infiltrators and rain gardens, but yeah, they can do them in series. It takes up a lot of room though. I'll leave that up to Tessie to come up with a design on that, but you're correct. They can do series.
Thank you.
Okay. Dennis, you have some comments?
Yeah, I'll try to go through what has already been covered. So on the first page, again, just maybe a refinement of some of these numbers so that there's, not confusion with acreages that may or may not add up if you're actually doing, some stuff mitigation wise in the wetlands, et cetera, 1.5 to 1 ratio accounting through chapter 64. I think we covered actually from what Greg's comments were, some of my bullets under wetland mitigation clarifications and additional information. I only, I'm gonna highlight, I guess, 3 of these. Per Dr. Danzer's comment, obviously your control is gonna stop at the property line, right? So obviously there's already established populations that are always gonna wanna re-creep, re-encroach. And so I guess those last 2 bullets under that item, that's gonna be, to me, important component of, later, assuming that there is a resolution of approval, that, that really needs to be covered, at least discussed in the maintenance and monitoring plan. It can't just maybe necessarily be just, so insular. You definitely have to look outward, even though it may not be entirely under your control. You can go out and do whatever on another property. I think you need to know what you're up against, so to speak. So that would be something. And then the last bullet, I wasn't sure. I was happy with, I have no issue with the species that were selected in terms of the shrubs that were along the roadway. But, I don't know how that roadway is treated in terms of salting and whatnot. So I just, did some further research and I saw that, 2 of the species selected are not, they don't like alkaline soil. So if there's, salts used during the winter, they may not respond as well as some of the other species. So that, it's not necessarily a no-go, it's just a consideration. I really don't know how that area is treated in the winter, what the environments are, how far you'll necessarily be from the salt zone or the salt spray, but those are just considerations. Moving on through. So for the tree removal application, I'm just jumping to the last page. In consideration of the team, you guys probably could do a better job than just maple, oak, and hickory, and you could actually identify down to the species. And since this was like really a block copy paste of the prior application in terms of the listing of the species and their diameters, it would be helpful to have something updated because obviously those diameters, they did increase, and some of them probably would be measurable to the point that they would, reflect different numbers. And, also too, which I think would play into what Bob and other board members were saying, you really need to correlate, the tree in the field, maybe a numeric designation with, you know, the tree on the plan, again, numeric designation, with the tree that's in the list, again, numeric designation, and then it helps to foster that discussion of, like you were saying, Greg, you know, oh gee, this is the 42-inch, you know, sugar maple, you know, versus 42-inch Norway maple, you know, that could direct the discussion one way or the other, but none of that can occur right now, the way things are sort of summarized and presented, so I kind of get to that level of detail so that we can have that evaluation and discussion. And that, you know, at that point, I'll probably, you know, would be able to provide a little more comment or questioning with respect to the tree replacement plan and how it meets chapter 121-6 in terms of replacement. And that, I would say, basically summarizes the comments that weren't necessarily addressed before in totality.
And I think Dennis also, just to echo one other thing on the tree plan is updated in terms of size, species, but also condition. It's one of the things that Dennis really needs to understand as well. What's the condition of the tree?
Sure.
If something has died in the last 4 years, well, that's another issue.
We don't regulate horizontal trees, you know, like it's the whole, yep, exactly.
Okay.
I actually have a question, so when they
Your
came up-
name is, so we
Oh,
can
I'm
get you
sorry,
to-
Christina Losapio, I live with Mike Mernon at 43 Twin Ridges Road. Our property
The
has,
Hoyt property.
yes, the Hoyt
You go
property.
through the property.
Our easement is, it's the driveway that goes through Michael Giori's property. Our property is right here, yes. So in 2020, when they came out to just kind of mark everything out, they spray painted a bunch of trees. And like, I know that's harmful to the tree's bark, so I was just wondering if they do come out again, are there any other markers that can be used on trees instead of spray painting them?
Yeah, they're supposed to put little things that are tacked in with a little nail. We don't do spray painting anymore, haven't done that.
And I was just asking if they are gonna mark the trees, if they can't, if maybe.
Yeah, and to Dennis's point, it'll be marked, it should be marked with a number.
Right.
So that Dennis can, and anyone else can identify what number it is on the
Yeah,
plan.
we'll probably use a ribbon, if we use those metal tags, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Because then you're basically putting a hole into the tree to that tree level for fungus and disease and all that.
Okay. Ribbons are fine.
Yeah, ribbons is
Yellow?
whatever is cheap at home.
Any other questions? I know folks are pretty answer.
Yeah, my name is Bill Finkley. I've lived at 36 Twin Ridges Road for, I don't know, 45 years or so. So I've seen things come and go. I'm very concerned about the widening of the road. The water table in my neighborhood, and particularly quickly across the street from me, is extremely high. So for instance, we have a water thing, with a meter and so forth goes in, that just continually fills up with water. The town comes out, they have to pump it out. So the difference between the water level and the level of the road is less than 6 inches. And there's springs everywhere. I have a spring that runs under my house 24/7, 365 days a year. In order to widen the road, you're gonna have to be messing with the land that the road is on, which once again is full of springs. My concern is, I'm downhill from all this. The last property that was developed was across the street from me, at Tracy's house, and problems came from drainage. We never had any drainage problems before, but when the house went in, they put a driveway and an insufficient drainage pipe for the water to go through. So what happens in a lot of rain? The rain comes up, pipe is at full capacity, the water spills over onto the driveway, goes downhill into my basement. Now, I put in French drains to address that issue, and it was, it's kind of a pain in the neck, but it's a problem. My concern is they start doing things here, you're gonna open up and they're bringing storm sewers in as well, because it's gonna, some way there's gonna have to be a way to capture this water. I guarantee, if you start digging in my front lawn, there's gonna be a lot of springs opened up. Secondly is, how about emergency services? It's a tiny road, in order to maintain it all the way down and so forth and so on, they're gonna have to, there's no way fire engine will get in there, there's absolutely no way, even when they were working on the conduit for an ambulance to get here. Now, from a personal standpoint, they've carted my butt out of there 4 times this year by ambulance. And I'd like to be able to think that I could have this continuing service and they'd be able to pull up and rather than, help me about 100 yards in another direction. And I just have a lot of concerns. I think, one question is a house for spec, is this a spec house?
Don't know yet.
You don't know yet? Okay. Because I remember last time we were here, you had mentioned and told the board that you were developing this property for yourself.
I live long enough.
Excuse me?
I live long enough.
Let's hope the planning process
I
doesn't
thought it
take
might
that
might
long.
influence the board a little bit since you're doing it yourself, maybe they give you a little more slack. Then anyway, I have to put my comments in writing to you guys. I appreciate your time and your efforts. God, you have a very difficult job.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I live at 9 Twin Ridges, down at towards the other end, but it's
And your name
point,
is?
Toby Maranga.
Okay, thank you.
At one point, we did go around with flyers to ask people not to use certain types of chemicals on their lawn because it drains into the lake. And in doing so, we found out that the streams that do come down through that area, through our area, end up in the lake. So the comment that you were saying, not that you anticipate, but sometimes things happen with septic being close to the streams, and those streams will directly end up in the lake, that lake is a very fragile lake because of climate problems and different types of algae with that very heat, that long duration of very high heat, that we had algae on it and we've had to check for certain bacteria at one point. So my concern is the integrity of the lake because the entire community really depends on the lake keeping the value of the homes and being the main attraction to that particular community. So that was one of my questions, because all the streams do drain into it.
Right,
And the
yeah,
other
twice sewers are preferred over septic if you can do it, right.
Yeah, and the other question, when you said you were enlarging the road with gravel, I mean, it's almost, if you're saying that the purpose of enlarging it is for heavyweight machinery and trucks, well, gravel is not gonna make it if they're using gravel to get down to the end in emergencies of fire, because it doesn't hold up, so that would be a constant problem, as we have in the road to the lake road, which is a private road, but it's always with potholes and whatever, you can't get heavy equipment down. So those two factors, and the lake is a major factor for everyone.
Okay, good, thank you. Bob, is there a way that we can,
Just one more question.
yeah, I wanna follow up on one thing. Bob, is there a way that we can make sure that the DPW is aware of this high water level, high water table? And make certain that whatever they do on this road is not going to impact the off-site neighbors?
We can
Seems
take a
like
look
this
at it.
is-
I will definitely mention it to Bart.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that's something that needs to be somehow recognized in the overall plan so that we don't move forward and impact other folks' property.
What's the town's obligation and responsibility for a private road?
I don't know, Bob.
Nothing, so to Toby's comment, let's say this is all built and it's 5 years from now and that gravel's just falling apart. The town doesn't come in and say anything, right? Because it's a
No, the
private road.
town cannot expend public funds on private roadways. The
But
only
can
thing
the
they'll put in there
town,
is the water main, and that's it.
so
It's all
if the
maintained.
if the neighbors were to contact the town about the road in disrepair, the town has no authority to go in and fix anything. It would have to be up to the neighbors to fix it themselves?
That is correct.
Okay.
And that also extends to the drainage parcel to the roadway?
That is correct. But believe you me, we'll try our best. When you widen that road out, there's a lot of ways, again, to build that road. They can use tough turf, which is really a material which is withstanding up to an H20 loading, but it's actually grass on top and it has a gravel layer below, which acts as a curtain drain. So that might be one way to do it where it wouldn't have any runoff. It'd be just like grass. So to the one gentleman's concern, that might be a better way to go to widen out that road.
Right, so then does the inconvenient truth become that if we're worried about getting rid of water, moving water, drainage, springs, whatever, then how do we know that we're not necessarily impacting the hydrologic regime of a nearby or existing wetland that then, in losing that hydrology over.
The only way to do that is to have the applicant spend $25,000 on a hydrogeological study.
Right, or water budget analysis or something, right, okay,
That's the only way to find out. I only deal with stormwater for runoff.
right,
But if they're concerned, the planning board, they'd have to make the applicant do a hydrogeological study on the whole area, which is quite expensive and quite involved.
Okay, thank you, Davis. Another question, someone?
Yeah, the water main would come in where?
And you are again?
I'm Mike Vernon, 43 Wood Ridge.
According to the drawings, Mike, the water main would go up the paper road of Wood Lane.
Right, so is that, there's all trees there too, they're gonna take all the trees down and clear?
Well, they have an area identified and where they would work, and I guess the plan would be just to go and scoop, do a bucket, walk with a bucket, clear it out to do it. But you're gonna have the width of the piece of equipment doing it, and if there's a tree in that way, then yeah, maybe that tree's gotta go. But once you start putting a bucket into the ground to go down 48 inches or 60 inches for a water main, you're gonna hit a lot of root structures, and there's gonna be a lot of trees impacted. Which I'm sure Dennis will pick up on this summer.
And then also widening the road is, the stream is right next.
The
to
stream
road
is
as
next
well.
It's on the left side of the road and then it goes across our easement and then down on the left side, so. And the neighbors, we all chip in to take care of our street, so we also just spent $32,000 last November 1st on help taking care of all of the potholes on our road, and we chip in together for snow removal, so we don't use salt, we're very good about that.
thank you, good.
Is that just the houses there, or is that all the property owners that chip in?
So
Just that, the houses.
Just that, just the homeowners?
just the homeowners,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Just one point if I might make.
Sure.
When it was developed, the house across the street from was developed, the water line and the hydrant line came in on the right side of the street, not on the left side of the street. Everyone's talking about going down the left side, through the stream bed there. But actually, what's currently there at the corner of my property is brand new stuff that was done for the house across the street. So they've had somewhere along the time, someone's got to switch that, obviously, if you cross something somewhere along.
Okay, thank you. We don't normally engage in this kind of conversation, but we're very happy that the folks took the time to come down and recognizing that we took comments. There will be a public hearing at some point on this application, in which case, feel free again, either in writing or in person, make comments. We also received a letter from Dana and Mark Wegman.
Yeah, we were just here.
Okay, maybe I had to leave because Mark is in parentheses, so I don't know what his deal is. But in any event, okay, good, well, we have their letter as well. Good, okay, well, I think the takeaway on this.
Thank you.
It was emailed as well, but we.
Oh, you didn't.
Save me the trouble of sending an email, so.
So I'd say the takeaway on this is that we know that we need to get updated plans, as Bob has asked for, more clearly drafted. We need to see the 150 lines on here. Dennis has got information that he needs updated in terms of the trees. We would like to get the building lot history that you can supply to council, so we have that as a base. Anything else that is of use to us that was from the past is great, but we all recognize that this is a new application, so these documents have all got to be updated. And we have to have something that we can use for a current application. So as much as this is an informal, this gives us an idea about what's going on. To Sabrina's point, we really have to have the updated forms and applications and maps. So when you have that ready, let us know and we'll schedule you for another informal hearing and see what headway we can make. John, did I miss anything that you wanted to bring up?
I'm good.
Okay.
I can speak to Keith if I need to.
Okay.
Thank you then.
Anyone else, comments from board members? Anything else that you want to see or emphasize that we missed or you want to emphasize? Sabrina, Bob, anything? Okay, Dennis, you're okay? All right, so we'll see you,
That was great, thank you. That was,
Okay.
very helpful.
Good night.
Very good.
Good night.
Oh, you're not.
Okay, we have some minutes.
Well, of course, I'm a safety.
Everyone here, I was in here either.
How's it going? Great.
So we have,
Well, we determined that you can,
I'm not voting on
you
that.
can't, yeah, no, you can't vote.
So we, yeah.
If you read them, you can vote on them.
Determined you can vote on it, yeah.
Especially if you watched it, I mean.
Yeah, you watched it.
So, I mean, he gets a special point. So we have the minutes from, the last meeting, which is November sixth. Anyone have any changes or comments?
I went through them, I have no changes or comments.
Okay. I had a couple little typos that I saw, not that I was here, but. I don't want
Well,
that
that
to
was
hold me
helpful
back.
today.
Exactly. So is there a motion to adopt the minutes of, November sixth?
Motion?
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll just abstain since I wasn't there, and I did not watch. We have a change in the meetings for next year. So there's a change in the April meeting, Felicia?
Yeah, the April meetings, I had it incorrectly for the second and fourth week, it's the first and third Wednesday,
So it's April 1 and April 15.
yes.
Traditionally, we work a little bit to avoid having a meeting like, the day after Labor Day. I personally felt like I'm still not really into it at that point.
Is that September 3rd?
Yes, and I'm just wondering is there a way of making any changes for the Jewish holidays, because we always have to work around those, and it's very difficult to tiptoe around this every year. Lisa does a great job
I know,
of working with me and my problem of coming back the day after Labor Day.
I know, and the only problem is that we have to figure out when other boards are meeting and when we have access to rooms.
We could
September
just
was-
have one meeting in September.
September, the first week was difficult, we could just do the one meeting.
But don't forget, we have no meetings in August, so don't we usually get a little bit of a backlog in September?
Sometimes, but usually, also the professionals seem to all take off August as well. We even had big applications where I can remember telling those applicants, please get everything done in August so we can see you, and then their excuse was, well, we're on vacation.
Jewish holidays aren't until the 22nd,
So a little bit later.
Right, I avoided those,
Yeah.
however, do you wanna remove the third?
Works for me. Is that okay?
Okay,
I'll do whatever.
Yeah.
If I'm here, great, if I'm not, I'm not.
Yeah, also very often people are still traveling, still not.
I mean, school's in session by then, so I'm back.
Starts on usually the Wednesday.
Yeah.
school is,
Tuesday or
yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah, school starts that Tuesday, so I'm back in town.
Okay.
Okay.
Spring dinner on the 16th.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so I'll cancel that one.
Yeah, that's great.
You're gonna approve that?
Yeah, is there a motion then to approve the amended schedule of meetings for 2025?
Motion?
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
that's it. Is there a motion to close the meeting?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Second.